The tough thing as well, because this to me ties into like what I asked you about getting to bench Carrigan at the beginning of the Astralis project. Like to me, I think there are most coaches, almost every coach in my opinion, would never make that roster move you made after winning the major. I know like he didn't win the blast after, but he was still in the finals. Like almost everyone else, the joke even would be Zonic, like just winning that major would normally have bought dupreeh like 6 more months than any other team because you just won the major, you just won all the big tournaments. Like everyone's going to give you a chance. And also it just looks really bad, like sort of to fans, like we won guys, but we're gonna have to kick him, I'm afraid. Like that's a pretty ballsy move though, but I will say that is much more in line with what I think like great coaches in like football do, for example. Even if you win the championship, like the other teams are all making their changes. They're all going to try and be number one. Sometimes you have to make a really brutal cut like this. And in this case, it must have been hard, not just because of like he was your old player from Astralis, but he also is a player where I can understand why he might think he's still good because he had insane longevity in CSGO. The guy really was good for like 8 years or something crazy. So I can see why he probably thinks he can still get back to the top. So can you just give me some thoughts? Like how do you even go about cutting someone like that when you've just won the world championship? That must be the craziest conversation you ever have to have, right?
It was brutal. To be honest, I was in Disneyland with my Disney World with my kids. It was because we couldn't let Peter know because of the signing of Flames, and I didn't want to tell Peter you're benched, and then he's not benched because we're not going to get Flames after all. And that was a decision made, and it was pouring, raining, and I was just standing here, and I had to do the talk because I really tried everything I could to let him know before we left, Washington, because I really wanted to say it face to face. But I also felt that as soon as it was final, he had to know it. And yeah, it was a shit conversation, to be honest. And it was very difficult for me because I also have a strong personal relationship with Peter. But I think you cannot just evaluate that, okay, yes, we won the major, but you need to look at it as how has the last year been with Vitality? I think we got the absolute maximum out of Peter in the state that he was in back then. It's good to see him putting up good numbers. Shout out to him in CS2. But I think that was the maximum that we could get out of Peter for that team. I think if you look at the whole year, it's been ups and downs. Yes, we won the major. It's a big thing. But you also need to look in the fashion that we did it. I mean, barely 1 or 2 maps during the entire tournament was convincing, in my opinion. It could have easily gone the other way around. Not saying anything that was Peter's fault, but it was just, let's not get blind, I would say, by the performance. Let's just look at it not from a major perspective, but also, giving everything into consideration. Vitality didn't have much money to spend on transfers. We got this opportunity with a player, again, same role, 10 years younger.
No buyout, right?
No buyout, yes, exactly. He was free, and also, I had some talks with dupreeh, asking about his future, what he was thinking, and he said that he would at least want to, take the major in Copenhagen as well. And for me, it was just, but then after? What about after? If we can't, afford to get a new player in, now is the time if you want to make the change. And it was just, when you put all those things combined and not just looking at the major result and just saying, because I think to some point, I think one of my mistakes was keeping the Astralis lineup a bit too long, at least for one of the players. And it was difficult because the weak friendship we also had in this lineup, and there were some contractual things with our agent / Astralis that made us more, the commitment between the players and me more complicated, I would say. So it was more difficult for me to bench a player, but in hindsight, I think that was also one thing where we could have extended the period with the roster if we made a change a little bit before. And I kind of wanted to, I kind of learned from that, and that was the reason for my decision.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.